cannot be built on another's dispossession. Here's an example of why people survive. His commitment to writing and advocating for justice in Israel and Palestine would later cost him his job at RRC and to leave Olive. In 1983, he moved to Philadelphia at the invitation of Ira Silverman, the president of RRC, to start the Shalom Center and be a member of the faculty. He had just published Seasons of Our Joy. He later said, quote, "Well, Seasons began when I realized that in America, the Jewish community lived according to the festival cycle. That's the only thing that made us different from any other Americans. And I wanted to communicate the depths of that difference. Not just the Holocaust, not just the state of Israel, but the depths of what the festival cycle was about." In the last year, Arthur had begun explicitly writing about creating a diaspora Judaism. But here, 40 years ago, we already were seeing that the Judaism of America based on Israel and the Holocaust could not be spiritually nourishing or survive. I was fortunate to be a student at RRC when he taught there. He organized some of us to protest at a nuclear weapons facility, commit civil disobedience, and get arrested. I think Brian Wald and Julie Greenberg, who were here, were part of our affinity group who got arrested. Arthur wore a tallis, a special one that his mother had made and suggested that each of us wear one. He began the now widely followed practice of wearing a tallis when risking arrest or speaking at a rally, symbolizing a holy act. And we know he cherished getting arrested, racking up over 25 arrests, always trying to keep the number of arrests even with the number of books he wrote. But in the end, he had written more books as it was harder and harder to get arrested. I remember one time he and I were sitting blocking the doors of the convention center to disrupt a corporate conference on fracking, and they just refused to arrest us. And the big cops kept coming over and lifting us bodily, moving us over. And we would stand up and move out the door. But that was Arthur. The Shalom Center began as the Jewish voice calling for nuclear disarmament, but morphed into teaching us Jewish environmental consciousness and activism. He insisted that the earth itself was part of our sacred community, that the phrase, "the earth is God's," was not poetry but policy, not metaphor but moral mandate. His environmental teaching has inspired a generation of Jews. In 1993, he co-founded with his very dear friend Rabbi Zalman Schachter Shalom and others, Aleph, the Alliance for Jewish Renewal, the flagship of the Jewish Renewal movement. It is said that Arthur actually coined the term Jewish Renewal, a movement grounded in Judaism's prophetic and mystical traditions. Arthur has been a defining voice in that movement. In the early 2000s, Arthur and the Shalom Center left Aleph, as with some other Jewish organizations, the strong stances Arthur had taken for peace and justice in Israel-Palestine and other important issues made some people uncomfortable. Arthur always spoke his truth, regardless of the cost. Thankfully, in time, the relations between Aleph and the Shalom Center have fully healed, as they have with RRC, who a few years ago presented him with their highest honor. In the decades that followed, Arthur guided the Shalom Center to be a beacon for eco-Judaism and spiritual activism. There he taught that the earth itself is a sacred text and that the climate crisis is a crisis within the name of God. Arthur gave new meaning to the word indefatigable. As his energy was waning even in the last years, most of the Shalom Center board members, including me, thought it was time to close it. He insisted on finding a successor, and he prevailed. He found Rabbi Nate DeGroot to fill the role, and the Shalom Center is carrying on with the legacy of ActiFest, reimagining Jewish holidays. To get that much done in a lifetime, you must have passion, and sometimes that can turn into anger or impatience. And perhaps Perhaps the anger was there as a defense to the deep fears of his childhood. As Arthur grew older, he began to realize that his anger created distance and perhaps wasn't helpful. He worked hard on cultivating his softer side. He became a model of someone literally working on himself to the days he died and working on his relationships to the very last hours of his life to bring about healing in his family with those he loved. No one I know loved Torah more than Arthur. Teaching Torah was where he could be most creative, playful, insightful, serious, and prophetic. It was his palette, and he was a master painter. A teacher, poet, darshan, organizer, Arthur was a soul of enormous compassion and fierce conscience. He brought to our generation the voices of Moses and Isaiah, of Heschel and King, of Hagar and Huldah, and made them piercing again. For more than half a century, Arthur showed us what it means to live a life of Torah, not as ancient memory, but as a living covenant between human beings, the earth, and the source of all. His passing leaves a deep ache in the Jewish renewal community and in the hearts of all who learn from his courage, imagination, and his unwavering faith in humanity's potential for healing. His voice thundered for justice and whispered of compassion. I'm sure all of us have heard his voice break with tears. He taught us that the Holy One is within the breath of earth, the lungs of the planet, and every being who yearns for freedom. He stood on the bridge between the old and the new, between the synagogue and the street, the classroom and the protest line. His words and deeds invited us to imagine a Judaism radiant with life, alive with spirit, and wedded to the struggle for justice. Arthur's laughter, as well as his tears, could emerge at any moment. His eyes always ready to twinkle at paradox. He could argue like a Talmudic sage and hug like a grandfather. He had the softest lips and hands of anyone. He loved the prophets and was perhaps one, but not of doom, of hope, but of hope. Hope that humankind could yet turn its face toward the light before the earth grows weary of our folly. With his life partner and collaborator, Rabbi Phyllis Berman, Arthur modeled what it means to live in deep partnership, not only in love, but in shared purpose, and what it means to never stop growing, on working on deeper ways to love and honor each other past life's obstacles. I want to honor the absolutely amazing caregiving that Phyllis did in these last years. Together they taught and marched and prayed for a better world. Their spirits interwoven like threads in the talit of justice and compassion. There's a saying in sports about leaving it all on the field. Arthur left it all on the field. He drained every single ounce of life energy out of that body. He had an amazing force of will. He willed himself to write that last book beyond any human being might have done. Phyllis and I were in amazement. He just willed himself, took every ounce of possible energy, and he made it happen, and then he was done. And he was ready to go. Arthur's Torah will continue to live in the movements for climate justice, for democracy, for multi-faith solidarity, for a just peace between Israelis and Palestinians, and the renewal of Judaism as a force for healing and love. His was not a quiet piety, but a living, breathing, singing faith, one that demands something of us. To honor Arthur is to continue his work, to open our hearts wider, to widen our circles of compassion, to weave together the voices of prophets ancient and new. Arthur's spirit will not fade, it has only changed form. As Zalman might say, he's just broadcasting on a different frequency. He lives in the chants of those who march for peace, in the satyrs that lift up the oppressed, quest and in our work for love and justice. He challenged governments and institutions, but he also challenged each of us. What are you doing to heal the world? What covenant are you keeping with generations to come? I wouldn't be honoring Arthur if I didn't challenge you and agitate you to act. What can you do in his memory to bring about more justice in this world? How can you help justice flow like a mighty river? Take a moment to think about that and to make a resolution right here and now. Remember that resolution. And in addition, tzedakah in Arthur's honor can be given to his beloved Shalom Center. There is a special legacy section on the webpage for donations in his memory. You can also purchase his 2 new books. I wouldn't be representing Arthur if I didn't pitch his books. Come on. Tales of the Spirit Rising and Sometimes Falling, and a handbook for heretics and prophets, a new Torah for the world. So go to the Shalom Center website. I've read both of them. They are actually very inspiring. Yes, Phyllis says buy them no later than the end of December. May his memory be for a blessing, and may we, his students and friends, carry his Torah forward with hearts open and hands ready. Amen. Jesse.
Shinti Amale, or in this case, the Yahweh, but you stand in body and word and spirit.
ונאמר אמן.
Shiva tonight is here at Mishkan Shalom, and then the following night at Germantown Jewish Center, and then on Saturday evening at the home of online. Sorry, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday evening are all online, and Sunday morning and Monday morning